My name is Avery Collins. I'm 32 years old, and on my birthday, my family threw a party for my brother. The click of my heels echoed through the marble lobby of my apartment, each step chasing away the silence that waited upstairs. 14 hours at North Star PR. One new contract closed, and not a single message that said happy birthday. My phone screen glowed back at me, 0 calls, 0 texts. On Facebook, champagne spilled across my brother's smile. Congrats, Ethan. The Collins legacy continues. The word legacy burned like a brand. I stared at the small cake I'd bought myself that morning, its lone candle unlit. They didn't forget. They chose. But what they didn't know was this would be the last year I asked to be seen. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family, if you've ever sat at your own celebration and realized you were just background noise in someone else's story. Because this isn't just about a forgotten birthday. It's about what happens when silence finally learns to speak. I used to believe that families don't forget, they just get busy. That was before I realized being busy is the polite word people use when they choose not to care. My earliest birthday memory is of frosting melting down the side of a grocery store cake. I was 11. The candle leaned sideways like it was trying to escape, wax dripping into pink icing. Mom had promised they'd be home by 7. Dad, Ethan, everyone. Ethan had a state debate final that same day, and Dad said, "We'll celebrate both of you." I waited at the dining table, chin resting on my folded arms, TV humming in the background. The clock ticked past 8, then 9. By 10, I blew out the candle myself, the wish stuck in my throat. They came home just before midnight, carrying Ethan's trophy like a newborn. He won, Mom squealed. She kissed his forehead, straightened his tie, then finally noticed the cake. "Oh, honey," she said, half laughing. "We'll do your candle tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. At 17, it happened again, different stage, same play. That year, I was supposed to tour colleges with them. We talked about it for months. But when Ethan got an invitation to a private visit at Yale, the plan changed overnight. "Grandma's dying to see you," Mom said, packing my suitcase for me. I remember standing in the doorway while she folded sweaters. "You mean dying of loneliness, or actually dying?" She smiled like she didn't hear the question. "You'll understand when you're a mother someday." I never did. Grandma's house smelled like dust and canned soup. She tried to make my birthday special, bought a frozen pie, stuck in 2 candles because that's all she had. We ate it with spoons straight from the tin. She said, "At least you're easy to celebrate." I laughed. But it was the kind of laugh that leaves a bruise on the inside. When I graduated college, I thought this one's mine. I had clawed my way through internships, sleepless campaigns, caffeine meals. I sent the invitations myself. The restaurant had linen tablecloths, candles and glass jars. The works. Halfway through dessert, Ethan stood up and clinked his glass. "I have an announcement," he said, grinning like the world had been waiting for this moment. "Olivia and I are engaged." Everyone clapped. My mother cried happy tears. Dad ordered champagne for the table. My degree, the one I'd spent 4 years earning, lay folded in my purse. Forgotten. "I'm so proud of you," Dad said to Ethan, lifting his glass. Then, to me, without looking, "And you, sweetheart, this PR thing, you'll find your footing." This PR thing. I was already 2 promotions in. Years later, when I joined North Star PR, the walls felt like a different world, glass, chrome, voices that noticed my name. I worked beside people who measured worth in results, not relatives. That first year, my campaign for Westridge Medical raised their revenue 41%. The client hugged me. The board sent a bonus. I told Dad about it over Sunday dinner. He looked at his watch mid-sentence. "That's fine, Avery. But advertising doesn't really build anything, does it?" Ethan chuckled. "Maybe not like finance does." Mom smiled at the both of them. "Boys, stop. Avery's sensitive." That word sensitive has followed me like perfume. I never sprayed. I met Lionel Brooks the following Tuesday. He lived down the hall from my old apartment, 3rd floor, widower, 84. Ex-English teacher. I brought him leftover Chinese once because the delivery guy mixed up our orders. He invited me in. His kitchen smelled like cinnamon and old books. "Sit," he said, pushing a chair toward me. "Let's see if you know how to eat fortune cookies without reading them first." Tuesdays became a ritual, me bringing takeout, him baking oatmeal cookies. He'd ask about work, I'd complain about meetings, and somehow, he'd always land a sentence right where it hurt. Some parents, he said once, look at their kids and only see reflections of themselves. If you don't shine the way they want, they turn off the light. I asked if that was supposed to make me feel better. He smiled. No, it's supposed to make you build your own lamp. At North Star, my boss Noah Kaplan was nothing like my father. Calm, sharp, annoyingly fair. When the Westridge numbers came in, he called me into his office. You made this happen, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. 41% increase. That's not luck. That's clarity. He pushed an envelope toward me. Your bonus. Don't let anyone make you feel small for earning it. I thanked him, hands trembling around the check. I had never seen that many zeros with my name attached. That night, I bought a small cake from a corner bakery, Carrot, my favorite, and set it on the coffee table. It was my 32nd birthday. I thought, I'll light the candle later, after they call. They didn't. When my phone finally rang, it was Mom. For a split second, hope bloomed. Quino. Sorry, Avery, she said, catching herself. Darling, quick thing. Could you handle catering for Ethan and Olivia's anniversary? You're so good with details. Mom, I said, my throat tightening. It's my birthday. A pause, faint rustle. Then, oh, honey. With Ethan's big promotion, it slipped our minds. Slipped. Like my name was a dish she dropped but didn't bother picking up. After the call, I stared at the unlit candle again. The clock struck midnight. I whispered, Happy birthday, me, and blew out nothing. At work the next morning, Tara Whitfield, my best friend and fellow PR strategist, peeked over the cubicle wall. You okay? You look like you fought gravity and lost. I forced a smile. Family thing. She raised a brow. Translation, emotional tax season. I laughed, but my inbox pinged, and the laugh froze halfway. An email from HR. Bonus processed, $87,000 transferred. At the same time, my phone buzzed a notification from the Collins family chat. I didn't know I was in it. The message preview burned into my screen. Dad, Avery should cover 25 for the anniversary fund. She just got that bonus. Mom, yes, time she supported the family for once. Avery, 1E. Not even my name spelled right. I scrolled upward, threads of them discussing me, as if I were a client. Not kin. She can use her PR contacts again. That doctor from Westridge, great connection for Ethan's fund. She owes us some loyalty. She never visits anyway. Each line was another fingerprint on a bruise. I sat there, screen glowing, office bustling around me, the city moving like it always does. Inside, something old began to crack quietly, cleanly. That night, I told Lionel everything over oatmeal cookies. He listened, nodding slowly, eyes sharp behind thick glasses. They're building their legacy on your silence, he said. You know that, right? Legacy. I echoed. The word bitter. That's Dad's favorite word. Then build your own. He pushed a folded newspaper toward me. Real estate listings circled in red ink. Lake Michigan properties. Read the fine print. It's where people go when they're done apologizing. I smiled, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. I didn't know it back then, but that conversation over a cracked table and oatmeal crumbs would change everything I believed about what home meant. I didn't open that real estate section right away. It sat on my counter for days, edges curling under the weight of my coffee mugs. I told myself I was too busy, that I didn't have time for daydreams about cedar decks and quiet mornings. Truth was, I didn't think I deserved it yet. At North Star, the next few weeks blurred into long nights and glowing screens. Noah kept praising my crisis management work. You make chaos look choreographed, he told me once after I salvaged a client meltdown in real time. Tara would tease, our girl Avery, the corporate firefighter. But every compliment felt like chalk on wet paper. It didn't stick. Because when I closed my laptop, there was no one waiting at home who cared to hear it. One Friday, my phone buzzed with a new text from Ethan. Need a favor? Heard Regal Tech's marketing VP is your client now. Any chance of an intro? I stared at it for a long time. There was no hi, no how are you, just business is business. I typed back, I'll think about it. He replied instantly, family helps family. That line, simple, harmless on paper, hit like a slap. Family helps family. Unless that family is me. 2 days later, Dad called. I heard Ethan reached out. He said, voice clipped, efficient. You'll help him, of course. I swallowed. I haven't decided. There was a pause long enough to hear his disapproval hum through the phone. Don't make things difficult, Avery. This is how families support each other. I wanted to say, you mean how I support everyone else? But all I managed was, I'll think about it. He sighed, disappointed. You're still sensitive. I thought you'd have outgrown that by now. Then the line went dead. That night, I sat on my balcony, the city spread out below like 1,000 lit excuses. I thought about Lionel's words, build your own legacy. I opened my laptop. The real estate link still waited in my downloads. The house was listed as secluded lakefront home, Michigan shoreline. 4 bedrooms, cedar siding, a deck wrapping 3 sides, sunlight bleeding through pine trees in the listing photos. The price was steep but not impossible. My hands tingled as I scrolled through each picture, the kitchen with its stone counters, the wide windows catching dawn light. I could almost hear the waves brushing the shore. For the first time, I imagined a home where my name didn't echo in other people's mouths. A week later, I called the realtor. Her voice was brisk, efficient. The seller's already moved to Arizona. If you're serious, they'll accept a quick close. Serious. The word stuck to me like a challenge. When I told Lionel, he nodded like he'd been waiting for me to catch up. Take me with you to see it, he said. I need an excuse to stretch my legs. The following Saturday, we drove 3 hours north. The highway unwound into trees and light. By the time we reached the lake, the world had quieted to the sound of water hitting stone. The house was even more beautiful in person. A wide porch, weathered steps, the scent of pine and damp earth. Lionel took one slow breath. This air doesn't apologize for itself, he said. I walked through each room, the sunlit kitchen, the empty living room that still smelled faintly of cedar and salt. The realtor followed behind, heels clicking on the wood floors. Funny thing, she said casually. The previous owner was an old friend of your mother's, Avery Collins. She used to talk about buying this house years ago. Guess life got in the way. My stomach tightened. Of course. Life didn't get in the way, Dad did. I stood by the window, staring at the lake, thinking about the kind of woman my mother could have been if she'd chosen differently. Then I thought about the kind of woman I could still become. I'll take it, I said. The realtor blinked. You don't want to think about it? No. I smiled, steady this time. I've done enough thinking for everyone. The down payment emptied most of my savings. But when she handed me the keys 2 weeks later, the metal felt like armor. Lionel came with me for the closing. He brought oatmeal cookies wrapped in foil. Every new place needs a little sweetness, he said. Then softer, and someone who earned it. That night, I drove back to Chicago and parked in front of the Collins mansion. I didn't go inside. I just sat in the car, engine off, watching lights spill from the tall windows. I could see shadows moving, Mom arranging flowers, Dad pouring his scotch, Ethan laughing at something. The same rhythm I'd known my whole life. A family so practiced at looking whole they'd forgotten who was missing. In the quiet, my phone lit up with a message from Mom. Emergency dinner Sunday night. Family only. I almost laughed. Family only. Sunday came. I didn't go. Instead, I packed boxes, photo albums, old report cards, the diary I'd kept since I was 9. Each item went into a labeled folder like evidence. June 1999. Forgotten birthday. 2012. Graduation hijacked. 2021. Bonus expected. As I packed, I found a thin envelope at the bottom of a drawer, bank papers I didn't recognize. My name, my social security number, but a signature that wasn't mine. A cosign from when I was 18. The loan was closed years ago. Someone had borrowed using my credit. I didn't need a detective to guess who. The anger didn't come in flames this time. It came in ice. That night, I opened the Collins family chat again. Their latest thread glowed on my screen. Dad, Avery isn't responding. We'll assume she's in for 25. Mom, good. I'll confirm with the planner. Ethan, she'll cave. She always does. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then another. In PR, evidence is everything. You don't fight rumors with rage. You fight with receipts. I thought about Lionel's voice, build your own lamp. Mine, apparently, would burn every bridge I'd been told to worship. Before bed, I opened my laptop again and typed one line into Facebook. Sometimes the best gift is the one you give yourself. Under it, I posted a photo of the lake house from the listing, sunlight glinting off water, deck gleaming, like promise. I didn't add a caption. I didn't need to. By morning, the comments were flooding and friends from work cheering, old classmates congratulating. Proud of you, Avery. You deserve this. Mixed in were a few messages from unknown numbers. One from Mom. Where did you get the money? People are asking questions. Another from Dad. We'll talk about this at dinner tonight. I replied to neither. Instead, I drove to the lake. The house waited, empty but alive, like it had been holding its breath for me. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and felt the floor creak under my feet, a sound that said you belong here. That first evening, I lit a single candle on the kitchen counter. Not for a birthday, for a beginning. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on the deck, watching the sun fall into the lake. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt mine, and as the sky turned gold, I whispered what I hadn't dared to say in 32 years. They made me their silence. I'm making myself a story. I didn't know it then, but that story was about to burn through every secret they thought would stay buried. The first weekend after buying the lake house, I learned how silence could hum. No traffic, no elevator buzz, no neighbors above me flushing toilets at midnight, just the soft lap of water and the scrape of pine branches against glass. For a while, that quiet felt holy. Then my phone started buzzing again. Ethan, need a quick call. Urgent. I let it ring out. Then Dad called. Then Mom. The silence I'd built began to crack, invaded by familiar ghosts. By Monday, I was back in Chicago for a presentation. When I walked into North Star's glass conference room, Tara was waiting, tapping her pen like a drummer warming up. So, did you move or just disappear? Maybe both, I said. She grinned. Good. Sometimes vanishing is self-care. We were reviewing slides when her phone buzzed. She frowned. Weird. Your brother just connected with Regal Tech's VP on LinkedIn. My stomach sank. He didn't. Oh, he did. Caption says, great synergy meeting about cross-industry opportunities. That was my client. My hard-earned contact. I wanted to throw my coffee against the glass, but instead said, he used me again. Tara looked at me over the rim of her mug, then stopped being available. That night, I got another message from Mom. Dinner this Sunday. Family only. Where's something nice? I typed a reply. I can't, then deleted it. I didn't owe them explanations. On Tuesday, I arrived at work to find a storm waiting in the lobby. My father, Charles Collins, 6'2", silver hair, navy suit that probably cost more than my rent, was standing by the reception desk. His expression was carved from polished granite. Avery, he said, voice too loud for comfort. We need to talk. I felt every pair of eyes in the lobby turn toward us. Dad, this isn't appropriate. He didn't care. Your mother's upset. Ethan's embarrassed. You've bought a house, flaunted it online, and now you're refusing to contribute to family events. What are you thinking? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Please. Not here. He leaned in. Then maybe you'll answer your phone. We walked to an empty meeting room. He shut the door with a soft click that sounded like a trap closing. You're creating unnecessary drama, he began. All you had to do was transfer $25,000 for your brother's anniversary fund. That's pocket change for you. Pocket change? I repeated, blinking. That's my bonus. I earned it. He crossed his arms. Family helps family. I felt the words like cold water. You mean I help? They take. Don't twist this, Avery. You've always been difficult. Difficult, I echoed. Because I stopped being useful? He exhaled, impatient. You always exaggerate. Miles, Ethan has done everything right. We're proud of him. I laughed once, sharp. You even forget his name sometimes? His eyes narrowed. You need to fix this. Apologize to your mother, attend the dinner, and show some gratitude. For what? I asked quietly. For being invisible? He flinched, maybe just slightly, then masked it with disdain. You're not yourself lately. Maybe you need to talk to someone. I already do, I said. And she says I'm finally acting like myself. He didn't respond, just straightened his tie, as if that would put the universe back in order. We'll see you Sunday. No, you won't. He left without another word. After he was gone, Tara appeared at the door. Code red? She asked softly. More like code family. She handed me a cup of coffee. Then you'll need this. And maybe a lawyer. By Thursday, the whispers started. Cousin Harper called, her voice syrupy with fake concern. Avery, honey, are you okay? Aunt Marianne says you're having a crisis. I almost laughed. A crisis? She's worried you're isolating, and everyone's asking how could you afford that lake house? By working, I said flatly. Well, you know how people talk. Yeah, I said. I do. That night, I poured wine and scrolled through the family chat. Dad had started another thread. Dad, Avery hasn't responded. We'll proceed without her. Mom, she's been unstable lately. I'll handle damage control. Ethan, maybe she just needs attention. Attention. The word that used to sting now just made me tired. At midnight, I screenshotted everything again. Reflex at this point. Evidence wasn't for them. It was for me. Proof that I hadn't imagined the pattern. The next day, I met Lionel in the hallway. He was carrying a bag of oranges, his weekly ritual. You've got that storm face again, he said. Family stuff. I murmured. He nodded. The kind that doesn't stay in the house? The kind that breaks the windows. He smiled. Good. Light needs a way in. We sat at his kitchen table, the smell of citrus sharp in the air. I told him about Dad showing up at work, about the whispers, about the dinner invitation. When I finished, Lionel leaned back, eyes thoughtful. They're losing control. Avery. That's why they're loud. Quiet people are harder to cage. Then I'll be silent, I said. He shook his head. No. Be surgical. Silence is a scalpel. Use it where it cuts clean. That night, I wrote 2 things on a sticky note. 1. Don't react. 2. Document everything. The first step to revenge isn't rage. It's record keeping. The following weekend, I drove back to the lake house and tried to forget the city. I spent the morning painting the porch rail white, the afternoon unpacking books, the evening listening to waves brush the dock. The world finally made sense when it didn't involve them. Sunday night, as the sky turned violet, my phone buzzed again. Mom, I let it go to voicemail. Then Ethan called. Then Dad. Then Mom again. 5 calls in 10 minutes. Silence can feel heavy, but that night it felt clean. Monday morning, I woke up to 32 missed calls and a flood of messages. Screenshots. Gossip. Avery Collins has gone rogue. Who buys a lake house alone? Is she hiding money? Cousin Harper texted. They think you're in trouble. Maybe show up to the family dinner and prove you're fine? I typed back. I'm not the one who needs to prove anything. At North Star, Tara caught me in the break room. Your brother was here, she said. What? Ethan. Showed up 20 minutes ago. Asked for you by name. Said it was family business. The words tightened my chest. What did you tell him? That your whereabouts aren't my information to share. I exhaled. Thank you. She smirked. Don't thank me yet. He cornered Devin from accounting. Apparently mentioned something about Michigan. Let him, I said. By evening, my phone lit up again. Dad's message. Emergency dinner Tuesday. Family only. I deleted it. But they didn't stop. The next day, a courier delivered an envelope to my office. Inside, an invitation card printed on ivory paper. The Collins family dinner. 7 p.m. Lake Shore Drive. Under it, a note in my mother's handwriting. Please, don't make this worse than it already is. I almost laughed. Worse for whom? That night, Lionel found me sitting on the dock, invitation in hand. They're calling you to the courthouse, he said. I smiled faintly. Then I'll bring evidence. He raised an eyebrow. What kind of evidence? The kind they can't deny. Numbers. Pictures. Pages they forgot I kept. He nodded slowly. Then you'd better walk in calm. Calm terrifies people who expect chaos. The following days felt like a storm forming in slow motion. I drove to my storage unit and pulled out 3 photo albums. Ethan's birthdays, my own, and 1 blank. Then the spreadsheet 15 years of bank statements, gift lists, tuition payments, all carefully cataloged. I added the diary page from when I was 9. Maybe next year they'll remember without Grandma calling. Finally, I printed the phone logs proving Mom had labeled me Avery and muted me. Every document went into a brown leather folder. My own case file. Tuesday morning, I woke to a text from Harper. Heads up. Mom already paid the anniversary venue deposit. Source. You. Attached was a photo of the invoice payment expected from Avery Collins dated 2 days ago. I stared at it, then typed back, "Perfect. I'll see them tonight." At work, Tara noticed my packed bag. "You're really going?" "Yes." "You sure?" "I've spent 32 years being sure for everyone else. It's time to be sure for me." She grinned. "Then make it count." I left early, drove the familiar highway north toward the mansion. The city faded behind me, replaced by tree lines and gold dusk. I rehearsed nothing. I didn't need speeches, just facts. When I parked in front of the house, the lights were already on. Inside, I could see silhouettes moving around the dining table, my father pouring wine, my mother arranging flowers, Ethan straightening his tie. Same choreography as always. I took a deep breath, grabbed the folder, and walked to the door. Halfway up the stone steps, my phone buzzed. A text from Lionel. "Remember, don't raise your voice. Raise the evidence." I smiled. Already on it. I rang the bell instead of using my key. For a long second, no one answered. Then the door opened, and my father stood there, perfectly composed. "You're late," he said. "I know," I answered. I wanted to give everyone time to get comfortable. The hallway behind him smelled like money and guilt, expensive perfume, old scotch, fresh roses. I could already hear the clink of silverware from the dining room. My mother appeared, dabbing at her eyes as if tears were a dress code. "Oh, Avery, thank God you came. We were so worried." I met her gaze and smiled, slow and polite. "Don't worry, Mom. I brought everything we need to clear the air." Her eyes flicked to the folder in my hand. For the first time, she looked nervous. Behind her, Ethan shifted in his chair. Olivia whispered something to him. Dad exhaled. Impatient. I stepped into the room, the chandelier light catching the silver bracelet on my wrist. It gleamed like a warning. "Let's begin," I said. "I have something to show you." And for the first time in my life, they listened. I didn't know it yet, but this dinner would end with the sound of a door closing that no one in this family would ever reopen. The dining room glittered under a chandelier so bright it made the silverware blink. I'd grown up at that table, every scratch on its walnut surface, a reminder of meals where conversation meant judgment and dessert came with comparison. But tonight, the air tasted different. Metallic, anticipation and fear share the same scent. Dad Charles sat at the head, the king in his carved chair. Mom, Marianne, on his right, pearls gleaming like gilt made solid. Ethan across from me, posture perfect, wine glass spinning between his fingers. Olivia offered a nervous smile that I didn't return. Dad broke the silence first. "We appreciate you joining us. Your mother has been upset for weeks." Marianne placed her hand over his. "We just want to fix things, darling. All this tension isn't healthy for the family." "The family?" I echoed. "Which part? The one that throws parties without me, or the one that invoices me for attending?" Her smile faltered. "Avery, please, let's not make this ugly." "Ugly's already here, Mom," I said softly, sliding the leather folder onto the table. "I just gave it a seat." Dad exhaled through his nose, slow and deliberate, the way he did when a board member annoyed him. "If you came here to cause a scene," I cut him off. "No, I came to present evidence." I opened the folder. 4 stacks lay inside, each labeled neatly. Exhibit A to Exhibit D. The candlelight reflected off the plastic sleeves. Exhibit A. I began, placing the first album on the table. Ethan's birthdays. 6 through 21. Theme parties, photographers, custom cakes. Page 16. Your proudest year. 9. Ethan's 18th birthday smiled up at us. Him in front of a brand new BMW, Dad handing him the keys. I slid the second album forward. Exhibit B mine. Mom reached for it automatically. Flipping open the cover. Her hand froze. Sparse pages. A few Polaroids of me alone, sometimes with Grandma, once with a store-bought cupcake. 32 birthdays condensed into silence. "You must have more photos somewhere," she murmured. "I don't," I said. "You do. You just never looked for them." Dad's tone hardened. "This is unnecessary." "Unnecessary?" I repeated, flipping to the last page. "You celebrated him on my graduation day. You threw his engagement during my dinner. You asked me to plan their anniversary on my birthday. But sure, unnecessary." Ethan looked down at his plate. "I didn't mean." "I know," I interrupted. You never had to. That's the problem. I placed the next document on the table color-coded spreadsheet. Neat rows of numbers. Exhibit C, the ledger. Family spending for 15 years. I only highlighted the discrepancies. Mom frowned. What discrepancies? College tuition, car down payments, vacation funds. I calculated roughly 86,000 in your favor, Ethan. Dad leaned back, smirk sharp as a blade. You've been keeping records? I work in PR, I said. Documentation is survival. Silence spread like smoke. The only sound was the faint tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. Then I reached for the thin page at the bottom of the stack. Exhibit D. My diary. Age 9. I read aloud, voice steady. Maybe next year they'll remember without Grandma calling. Maybe next year I'll be important enough. Mom's eyes glistened. Avery. Stop. That's not fair. Fair? I said. You want fair? Then let's talk about this. I pulled out my phone and placed it face up on the table, screen glowing with the family group chat. The one you accidentally added me to, where you misspelled my name Avery and muted the notifications. Her face drained of color. I didn't. Yes, you did. I checked the metadata. You muted my number years ago. So when I texted, you never even saw it. You built a filter for your own daughter. Her lips parted, no words coming out. Dad straightened, defensive. Enough. We're not on trial here. I smiled, cold and calm. Oh, but we are. You're just not the judge anymore. Right then, my phone buzzed again, another message from Harper. I turned it toward them, and that's Exhibit E. The banquet deposit for Ethan and Olivia's anniversary. Paid in advance. Listed source. Avery Collins. Dated before you even asked me. Ethan's fork clattered onto the plate. Wait, what? Mom? Marianne's voice trembled. I thought it would be easier if we told the planner you'd cover it. We were going to reimburse. No, you weren't. I said quietly. You never do. Dad's chair scraped against the floor as he stood, palms flat on the table. This is enough. You will not humiliate your mother like this. I stood too, matching his height. You did that for me every year I existed. I'm just returning the favor. His jaw locked. You've always been the ungrateful one. Ungrateful? I repeated. I gave you my silence, my contacts, my compliance. You mistook that for gratitude. For a heartbeat. No one breathed. The air itself felt heavy, the chandelier humming above like an electrical storm. Then Dad said the quiet part out loud. The Collins legacy lives through Ethan. That's just reality. Something inside me shifted. Not rage, clarity. I know, I said. That's why I stopped carrying your name like a duty. I'm done auditioning for a role you already cast. Mom reached for me, tears streaking her mascara. Please, Avery, don't do this. We can start over. Start over? I asked softly. That would require you to see me first. I gathered the folders, leaving the albums behind. These belong to you. Consider them mirrors. Ethan's voice cracked behind me. Avery, wait. I paused at the doorway but didn't turn. You once told me family helps family. So here's my help. Stop pretending we're fine. It's embarrassing. And then I walked out. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the marble foyer, a single, sharp note that felt like freedom snapping its chain. Outside, the night air hit my face, cool and clean. My hands shook, but not from fear, from release. I walked to my car, folder pressed against my chest like a heartbeat I finally owned. As I started the engine, I glanced once at the mansion's windows. Behind the curtains, shadows moved, confusion, anger, disbelief. The perfect picture of a family finally exposed to its own reflection. I smiled, small and sharp. For 32 years, they'd written me out of the story. Tonight, I rewrote the ending. I didn't drive straight home that night. Instead, I went to the lake. The highway blurred past city lights, giving way to pine silhouettes and the dark whisper of water waiting for me. When I stepped onto the deck, the moon hung low over the lake, fractured across the ripples like glass that refused to break completely. I set the leather folder on the railing and exhaled. The air smelled of wood and rain. Behind me, the house stood silent but alive, its windows glowing faintly, reflecting me back, just me. They thought I'd come undone tonight. That I'd scream, cry, beg for forgiveness. They didn't realize silence can be louder than fire. I poured myself a glass of wine, turned my phone over, and watched the notifications pile up: calls from mom, texts from Ethan, even one from dad that simply said, "Call me." None of them deserved an answer. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop and began typing. A press release. Of sorts, not for the public, but for me. Statement of self-ownership. I titled it. Every PR rule-eyed master turned inward. The headline concise, the tone controlled, the message clear. I detailed my achievements, my choices, my independence. It wasn't about revenge in the screaming, soap opera way. It was reclamation, a quiet rebranding of everything they'd ignored. Then, I attached the photo I'd posted weeks earlier, the lake house glinting under morning sun. Underneath, I wrote one line. When they stopped celebrating me, I learned to celebrate myself. I didn't post it yet. I wasn't done. In PR, timing is everything. And for the first time, I understood that personal boundaries work the same way. You don't announce them, you demonstrate them. The next morning, I made pancakes, brewed coffee, and watched the mist lift from the lake. My phone buzzed again. I let it. Every vibration was proof of power shifting hands. I wasn't cutting them off. I was cutting them loose. As the sun broke fully over the horizon, I smiled. The world felt open, unthreatened, almost weightless. They thought they'd destroyed me. But really, they'd handed me the one weapon I'd never had before. Proof. And in the right hands, proof becomes the sharpest form of revenge. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've ever been told to stay quiet just to keep the peace, hit subscribe. Because stories like mine aren't rare. They just stay unspoken. Sometimes, walking away isn't rebellion. It's recovery. And if you're sitting there, wondering when it's your turn to be seen, trust me, it starts the moment you stop asking for permission. This story isn't over. Not for me. Not for anyone who's ever had to build a family from scratch. Stay tuned. The next chapter always begins with choice.